Hello, everyone. I'm here with the Director of Care Coordination for our Center of Excellence team, Lori Now. Lori has been with our organization for 6 years, and she is here to tell her story about what it's like working at Gateway Rehab. Question number one, what makes you proud to work at Gateway Rehab?
From a larger viewpoint, the initial thing that makes me very proud is the sincere collaboration around our huge system. So Gateway, Greenbrier, working across so many sites, so many levels of care, so many counties. Um, as senior staff, the collaboration that occurs to around shared patient care is very prideful for me. Um, my center of the world with my mobile community-based team, communication is key to keep things running smoothly for patient care. But looking back at all the years of doing this, the collaboration, we need communication with every team, doesn't matter level of care, sites, counties, in order to ensure the standard of level of care for the patients that we need. So from senior staff down at different sites in the whole huge system, it's operating as we have many small teams, but it's one larger team that works together kind of beautifully every single day to ensure that shared patient care. And on a smaller scale, which is a huge pride point for me, is my team. Not only who my employees are, but what they do, and especially how they do it. The work's challenging, and they make me motivated, and I feel pride every single day with just what they bring to the table, not just fulfilling their duty set in their positions, but just who they are and the internal passion that everybody has for this, to drive their roles throughout the organization.
I can definitely see how working with your team means so much to you, like in your day-to-day work life, and taking the energy that they give you and you give them, and you guys just work together to collaborate. And at the end of the day, it's all about making sure that somebody's getting the care that they need.
Absolutely.
And, you talked about motivation, so that kind of leads into our next question. It's basically, what's it like to day, like motivate your team, or what's it like trying to motivate a team, your team trying to motivate you? What are some traits that you take from that, or what are some ways that you can motivate your team on a daily basis?
I think it's really important, and this has driven me from an employee as growing up to be, into the senior staff role. It's really important for me to get to know my employees on a personal level. Not just being aware of who they are as an employee with their jobs and their positions and their roles, and not their output or input, but who they are. As senior staff, getting to know them as on their personal side is truly what is needed to get the work-life balance. That's a huge, cliche thing that everybody's talking about, but that enables all of us to keep doing what we're doing and doing it very well for the patients.
Right.
So all of our lives behind the scenes are crazy, we're busy on a personal basis. So you have to get to know that, and I've tried as hard as I can to take the time to build the team from that, getting to know them not just as an employee and what they can do and strengths and skill sets, things like that, but on a personal basis, what drives them personally. Do they have huge families at home, or if they don't, or if they travel a lot, or if there's just general hardships, things like that. Again, we're all in this together, and we all have huge backstories, we all have a story. So the more, kind of from a professional level, intimately I know them as people, it drives the acknowledgement for them as professional staff. And it's not just, like I said, what their output or input is for the role, but them professionally to acknowledge that in many ways, big and small.
So, Laura, you talked about skills that a person may have to help motivate your team. When it comes to looking for a candidate or someone to work with the Center of Excellence team, what soft and hard skills do you look for someone that best fits that team for you guys to operate pretty strongly?
Sitting through, scheduling a lot of interviews. And like I said, we've built this team. We have a lot of well-rounded, we have a lot of veterans. We have a lot of folks who joined us midway and then more recently. So I think it's been well-rounded because one of the major skill sets is somebody just being intuitive. And it's not something you can teach to some degree. And just listening skills, old school, somebody being able to stop, think for a minute, and not being reactive. I think that's key for the role that some of our teammates have, specifically when they engage with patients. And from a bigger scale, just being intuitive to know when to speak up and react versus just thinking about it for a minute or thinking about it longer, consulting, senior staff or consulting your crew, and then, avoiding that reactivity thing, because we're representatives of not just Gateway and Greenbrier. We're very community based. It's boots on the ground. It's mobile. So it's not just engaging with folks and individuals receiving our care in the community, but it's referral sources, programs, other staff around the system internally and externally. So there has to be kind of like a temperament level, whether it's a skill or just a personality trait of being very intuitive, being very thoughtful. And I think the other most important thing is just being collaborative. This is never a one-person show. The success of this team is driven off of the team itself, of all of the contributions of the individuals. So by that, I mean, whenever we work with an individual who we enroll in our community-based program, they're not just receiving that one person to develop that rapport with, they're receiving a whole team because of so much collaboration. None of us are supposed to know everything that we're supposed to do. We're always learning. And again, cliche statement, but for somebody who's just willing to come to the table they may have experience in the role, they may have been in this field with substance abuse or mental health individuals with providing care for a while, but almost admitting coming in with kind of like a blank slate to work very collaboratively, that's the only way that we're able to provide the high standard of care and support for our patients, is the collaboration we keep with one another.
So like basically one kind of skill set that I'm kind of getting, kind of like what you're saying, is being able to connect with people is something that's very meaningful working in the recovery field, which once again, your responses are just leading us into our next questions all the time. You're doing such a great job, segueing for me. But what would you say for someone who's interested in working in the recovery space, who may not understand what it's like working in recovery?
With my team uniquely, they're in long-term sustained recovery, so they bring that peer support, and their role is intended to connect on a very personal level, that they've walked that path that their patient has, so they can provide that connection to truly understand and try to get those barriers and everything down for the folks that they work with and walk side by side and just eventually really empower them. So welcoming folks who maybe they have that experience, but they've never worked literally in the field, that's a whole different thing. Maybe they've experienced personally, but to work, then, it's a whole different hat that you put on. We're always talking about what hat do you have on at any given time. There's still a boundary line between their personal experience and then putting that professional hat on to, provide that support and service for their patients and care. So I think it's unique to use the word welcome and to inform people. Welcome, and it's supposed to be a safe space. So to try to describe to somebody what it's like to be in the field, it's very fast paced, very heavy. It can be one of the most beautiful, awesome things ever. And a lot of people focus on if they're in the mental health community or substance use related positions. Everybody says that how impactful it can be, and it can be very, the word burnout, the word heavy, the word complicated, and it can be messy. I love that my team and our staff all around our system get to see the full 360 and get to see the miracle of, even though it's this messy, it can be that much more beautiful on the other side. And it's that stigma. And so the welcome mat that I would say to people that, either interviewing or have been in the field, is that exact thing, that there's so much stigma even getting into with some of us who haven't seen the full 360 of the hope of recovery. So I think that welcome mat is that you see this,
Mm-hmm.
and the transformative that can be this is what drives us to do what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the fact that my team, they have transformed into this, and now they're getting in there, having people, they're walking beacons of hope for people. Hey, I was in your shoes. Look at me now. You know, so that drives me. That has driven our interviews into very wonderful places that people didn't think of. They want to be in the field, but kind of introing in that way
Mm-hmm.
drives people to really kind of see a passion that never, they want to help people,
Mm-hmm.
and helps one thing, but you know, the transformation they get to see is just amazing.
It's kind of like at the end of the day, the blood, sweat, and tears, or really just no blood, but just sweat and tears
Yes.
sometimes. Like it leads you to like honestly a happiness because you know that you're here working to help somebody out.
Yes.
Or help your community out, which is the most important thing at the end of the day. And that feeling is something that definitely spreads through our organization and allows us to continue to do what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing how you and your team operates going on their 7th year is just amazing. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely watching you guys motivate our entire organization from the bottom to the top, and top and bottom.
Thank you.
So, Lori, our next question, company culture. Everyone talks about our company culture, from having our dodgeball videos to our fundraisers, our events, our open houses, our social media. But hearing it from our staff is kind of like, you know, one of the most important things that we kind of like exemplify through our organization. So how would you describe our company culture to someone who's interested or may not even know about Gateway Rehab? Because, you know, there's a little bit of stigma of hearing our name, but.
First thing that always comes to mind is the freedom we have. And that's
Mm-hmm.
not just freedom with flexibility with positions and hours and mobile. And if, you know, whatever, it's less of hours worked and it's more freedom to be heard. I think our voices are always matter.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody's not speaking their voice, they're prompted to say, what do you think?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what do you feel about this? How do you feel about this? And I have always valued that. It doesn't matter what ranking or what position you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we kind of run our team, that voices need to be heard. People need to be seen. People need to feel like they're seen and heard. And that's very important. So I think culture wise, and I can speak for myself, that's been a huge importance of the field itself and how a culture is. And that's across our huge culture. That impresses me that no matter where you go in our organization, people were seen,
Mm-hmm.
people were heard, whether that's through acknowledgement, you know, from company broadcasts or shout outs or just individual team things, small or big.
Mm-hmm.
We're all seen and heard in one way, and we're noticed. And our voice matters.
Mm-hmm.
So that's huge, because if our voice matters, then our patients' voices matter. And that's a tremendous thing for our company.
Mm-hmm.
Life's hard, and especially for our patients. And so, you know, whatever we bring to the table, we're bringing together as people from all walks of life, all experiences, and our patients see that. And it's very relatable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about that connection. So the more connected as a team we are, I feel like that's only the more connected we can stay to our patients.
Absolutely. Being that March is Women's History Month, and you are our first Women in Leadership video, which I'm excited to do. What's it like, you know, being in your position and your experience here, you know, being a woman in leadership in an organization? What ways have you seen yourself grow to be in a position that you are right now?
First is the opportunity for growth. And, you know, especially with folks coming in to our organization, and some folks rightfully so ask, is there a pathway for growth?
Mm.
I think there always is. Minus certifications, licensures, things that we're all, you know, personally trying to get ahead of. I've appreciated in my role that I've had open doors and encouragement to not just stay put in the organization, but keep growing and keep going. And things have opened up for me, that people have opened pathways. And, you know, like I said, it's that acknowledgement of not what you're doing, but the value. And as a woman senior staff position, I love the fact that I get to just be the person to try to keep clearing the path for my team.
Mhm.
I love having the role that helps to enable the rest of whoever everybody does at Gateway, namely my team, gets to do what they do on a daily basis. There's so much red tape and hurdles and lots of stuff that comes along, and in this side of the world and this field, that I love being one of the senior staff folks that have risen to be able to keep the path as less confusing and as more clear as we can, so that our direct frontline employees can just do uninterrupted, true supportive care with the patients.
Thank you everyone for watching our video on company culture and listening to Lori's story about her and her team. Definitely be able to follow us on social media. And once again, thank you, and tune in for more.